Karen cut my power. While I was deployed, I came back with military lawyers and wiped HOA out. Have you ever wondered what happens when someone crosses a soldier fighting for their country, only to face the full force of justice upon their return? In the blistering heat of Kabul, Afghanistan, I was halfway through my deployment, leading a unit through dusty streets and high-stakes missions. My name's Captain Ryan Mitchell, and my focus was on keeping my team safe, not on the petty dramas of my suburban neighborhood back home. But 7,000 miles away, a storm was brewing in Maple Grove Estates, orchestrated by none other than Patricia, the HOA president with a vendetta and a pair of wire cutters. She thought she could bully her way into controlling my property while I was gone. She didn't know I'd come back with a fire in my chest and military lawyers ready to burn her empire to the ground. It started with a cryptic email from my sister, Lisa, who was house-sitting for me. Ryan, the power's out. HOA says you didn't pay some fine. What's going on? I was crouched in a briefing tent, sweat dripping down my back. When I read it, fines? I'd set up autopay for every bill before I left, including the HOA dues. My home, a modest two-story I'd bought with my savings, was my sanctuary, a place I dreamed of returning to after dodging bullets and IEDs. Lisa's next message hit harder. They cut the power lines, Ryan. Patricia said it was standard procedure for non-compliance. Standard procedure? For a soldier on active duty? My blood boiled, but I was stuck in a war zone, powerless to act. Or so Patricia thought. The truth unraveled slowly, like a grenade with a loose pin. Patricia, the self-appointed queen of Maple Grove, had been gunning for me since I'd refused to repaint my mailbox to match her approved aesthetic before my deployment. She'd slapped me with a $500 fine for property neglect, claiming my lawn wasn't mowed to her exact specifications. Lisa, bless her, had been mowing it weekly, but Patricia's inspections were relentless. She'd send violation notices for the tiniest infractions: a stray leaf, a slightly faded patio chair. When I didn't respond because I was, dodging mortar fire, she escalated. She claimed I'd ignored her final notice, and without warning, hired a contractor to cut my power lines, leaving my house dark and my sister scrambling to save the food in my fridge. Worse, she'd done it knowing I was deployed, Lisa had told her, repeatedly showing her my deployment orders. Patricia didn't care. Rules are rules, she'd sneered, waving her HOA clipboard like a scepter. But here's where the twist comes in. Lisa wasn't alone in Maple Grove. My neighbor, Mr. Delgado, a retired Marine with a sharp eye and a sharper tongue, had been watching Patricia's reign of terror. He'd seen her strut around, issuing fines like a dictator, but he'd also noticed something odd. The HOA's financial records didn't add up. Delgado, who dealt with corruption in his own military days, started digging. He found that Patricia had been skimming HOA funds. Thousands of dollars meant for street repairs and community upkeep were funneled into her personal account. She'd used her power to silence dissent, threatening neighbors with liens if they questioned her. My power cut? It wasn't just about a mailbox. It was a message to the neighborhood. Cross Patricia, and you'll pay. Back in Kabul, I wasn't about to let this slide. I contacted my base's legal assistance office, where I met Major Carla Evans, a JAG officer with a reputation for dismantling bullies. Carla was a force sharp-witted, relentless, and a stickler for justice. She pulled up the Service Members Civil Relief Act, SCRA, which protects active-duty military from exactly this kind of nonsense. They can't touch your property while you're deployed, she said, her voice steady but fierce. And if they're knowingly violating SCRA, they're in for a world of hurt. She started drafting letters to the HOA demanding reinstatement of my power and threatening federal action. But Patricia doubled down, claiming I'd abandoned my property, and that the HOA had the right to secure it. Secure it? She'd left my house vulnerable, with no electricity in the dead of winter. The confrontation came when I returned home after 9 grueling months. I landed at Dulles Airport, still in my fatigues, and drove straight to Maple Grove. My house was a mess: spoiled food, frozen pipes, and a stack of HOA violation notices taped to my door. Patricia was holding a neighborhood meeting at the community center. So I walked in, dusty boots and all, with Major Evans and 2 other JAG officers in tow. The room fell silent. Patricia, perched at the front with her gavel, froze mid-sentence. "Captain Mitchell," she stammered. "This is a private meeting." I didn't smile. "Not anymore," I said, tossing a copy of the SRA onto her table. "You cut my power while I was deployed. You violated federal law. And we're just getting started." The room erupted. Neighbors, fed up with Patricia's tyranny, started shouting their own grievances: unfair fines, ignored maintenance requests, even threats of foreclosure. Mr. Delgado stood up, holding a folder thick with evidence of Patricia's embezzlement. "You've been stealing from us," he said, his voice like gravel. "Bank statements don't lie." The twist deepened. Delgado revealed that Patricia had used HOA funds to pay for her son's college tuition, disguised as consulting fees. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Patricia's face turned ashen. She tried to deflect, claiming it was a misunderstanding. But Major Evans wasn't having it. "You're looking at civil penalties, possible criminal charges, and a class action lawsuit from this neighborhood," she said, her eyes locked on Patricia. "You picked the wrong soldier to mess with." Patricia's empire crumbled faster than a sandcastle in a storm. The JAG team filed a federal complaint under SCRA, demanding restitution for the damage to my home. $10,000 for repairs, spoiled goods, and emotional distress. Delgado's evidence triggered a state investigation into the HOA's finances, uncovering $50,000 in misappropriated funds. Patricia was removed as HOA president that night, her gavel confiscated by a neighbor who'd been fined for planting unapproved roses. The police arrived, and after a tense standoff where Patricia tried to flee out the back door, she was arrested for fraud and embezzlement. Her son, it turned out, had been complicit, signing off on fake invoices. They both faced charges, and the neighborhood cheered as she was led away, her trademark clipboard left behind like a fallen crown. But the real victory wasn't just Patricia's downfall. It was what came next. With the HOA board in shambles, the neighborhood rallied to rewrite the bylaws, electing Mr. Delgado as the new president. He slashed the petty rules, prioritized community needs, and set up a fund to help deployed soldiers maintain their homes. I got my power restored within days, and the HOA covered every cent of my damages, plus a public apology. I stood on my porch that spring, watching kids play on a street no longer ruled by fear, and felt something I hadn't in months: peace. I'd fought battles abroad, but this one, at home, reminded me why I served to protect what matters, even from enemies like Patricia. So what do you think? Was Patricia's punishment enough? Or should the system do more to protect deployed soldiers from HOA overreach? Share your thoughts. I am curious to hear where you stand on this fight for justice.